Well, damn, has it already been 7 days? Welcome to your weekly forecast for the week of July 14th and onward. My name is Oak with ABSOLEM, the Art of Astrology and Demon Slaying. Hi. Here at ABSOLEM, we're in the business of taking the cosmos, taking the juice of the cosmos and finding language to help us organize our week in a practical way, get us into a state of being able to contemplate a little deeper, to feel as, this just makes sense. The randomness of my life just makes sense. If you appreciate these messages and if you've been supported by them for these past few months, I've almost been doing this podcast for a year, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share. Leave a 5-star review. These things help to have other people who need these messages find them, and they also are they just make me feel joyful when I see that people are really responding well to these messages. This entire show and my life is sponsored by my astrology school, and the 1-year mentorship actually starts on Sunday next week, July 21st. If you're interested in studying astrology in a way that is mature, super grounded, practical, organizing for your world outlook, organizing for your spiritual healing, organizing for your relationship to yourself, and also being able to do that for others, it's all there for you. This is a really amazing program. It's also a very intensive program, and so I'm always calling in the right alignment for the people who are really ready to study. Feel free to check that out. The mentorship application is on my website, okastrologyschool.com. And so this week, my friends, I'm titling The Dongles of 2020 and the Dingles of 2025. Outside of Trump getting shot, this is a very important week. It's going to take a lot of the past, a lot of the future, and braid it all together. And thankfully, because astrology is just that type of organizing structure for time, we're able to see how important this week is going to be now in this moment. And so I am super excited to talk about it because hopefully I can really do a great job at explaining it, but just know that this is actually a week to pay attention to. And maybe that's all that you need. So if we were to do a little bit of a recap, Trump getting shot, sure, that is completely connected to the Mars-Uranus conjunction that is actually going to be exact on Monday, July 15th. So we wake up on Monday and that conjunction will be exact. But it has definitely been in effect since this weekend. There's actually been a lot of things that are very connected to that Mars-Uranus conjunction. We've had 3 celebrities that have passed on, and maybe it's shocking, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Richard Simmons, Shannon Doherty, Dr. Ruth, the famous sex psychologist. Just to make it clear, you guys, a Mars-Uranus conjunction doesn't always mean death. It doesn't always mean someone's getting shot. But it definitely, to me, the way that I think of it is that it is more so if there's something impending, if there is an issue that's been kind of like building in pressure, the Mars-Uranus is usually just like a button that is pressed. And it's like, okay, it's time. So with Shannon Doherty and Richard Simmons and Dr. Ruth, it's kind of like when I looked at their charts, it's like underlying health conditions were already present. But I will also attribute it to the fact that, as I said last week's forecast with the new moon in Cancer, it is just one of those periods where we're in between eclipses. It's a very important and dramatic turning point for the year. So we're still in that month. And so, these messages that I share with you guys, the words that I use, they are pretty intentional in that sense. So even though, Trump got shot, even though there's a lot happening in the world, we're still in this period between eclipses. And that's why I tend to focus on eclipses a lot. That's why astrologers go apeshit over eclipses, because they are just big moments where the the information for what we're moving through is starting to become more clear and more available. So if we were to recap a little bit on last week, I was talking about the importance of this Sun trine Uranus on Wednesday and Thursday last week. And what did we have? We had the NATO summit that occurred, a 3-day summit, and they were talking a lot about the continued support of Ukraine, and that means the further demonizing of Russia. Trump's court case that was set for July 11, it actually got deferred. It got moved to September 18. That is actually the date of an eclipse. So it got moved to an even more dramatic date. So that's kind of interesting. So with these events from the previous week, they are little echoes into the end of the year, because these degrees that some of these planets are crossing through are very connected to the Mars retrograde at the end of the year, which I will also mention. Like I said, this week, you guys, there is a braiding of time. And so it might not be as clear as I'm describing some of these things, but just stick with me. So pretty much as we're getting into the forecast for the upcoming week, this Mars-Uranus conjunction that is exact on Monday, it is going to be continually activated over and over. So it's exact on Monday. It is activated on Tuesday by the moon. It is activated on Thursday by the sun. It is activated throughout the week pretty much. And then there is a full moon on July 21st. And that is basically going to be in a strong contact to Mars and Uranus. That is a very dramatic full moon, and we'll talk about that as well. But as I was saying, this Mars-Uranus conjunction, it characterizes not only the weekend from last week, but also it characterizes the rest of this week. And so anything impending, the way that I've actually witnessed it around me is people having random fits of anger, people being like very irritable, frustrated, definitely changes of plans. So there can be, detours, plot twists, that kind of energetic. And so we can expect kind of like the density of that from this past weekend, and definitely on Monday and Tuesday. For me, it actually has shown up as like my nervous system being very overwhelmed. So like short circuiting, also like when I've been crossing the street, I'm like not paying attention as much. So, accidents are very much possible with Mars Uranus. So the astrology is great for just reminding you to like be careful, to be aware, to recognize that like people are actually going to be a little bit more disturbed, and it will show up more as like internal frustration when there's things that are actually being withheld for too long. So this is a great way to check in with yourself in terms of how to work with this particular energy. I think one of the biggest things about this Mars-Uranus conjunction is that the way that we have all been like continually prodded to change, if you are not actually, doing those changes, it's kind of like you have been receiving this message like over and over and over, and like, bitch, when are you gonna get the memo? So when you're looking at people's like stuck ways, and they're super stuck, and they're like going around the hamster wheel in their stuckness, this is that point where you make decisions. You make executive decisions. And this also goes for yourself. I'm certain that you're looking at something in your life and in your patterning where you're like, wow, I am just doing this the same way over and over, and it is time to make a change. So, like it happened to me. I went to one of my spiritual practitioners, and she was like, basically in short words, she's like, I can help you, but you're going to need to learn how to help yourself because you know these things already. And it was literally like, bitch, you already fucking know, like, you need to grow up. And I was just like, oh. I feel like I be giving messages to people like that when I give readings. So like when I receive that, I'm just like, oh. But it's like I'm not fucking perfect, but it's just one of those things. Like it is that's the kind of energy for this week, 100%. And so it's very blatant, right? And so out in the world, we're gonna see a lot of blatant things, and we are also still continually asked to it's like, if you already know that something is wrong, like how much more are you going to take of that thing being wrong before you really shift your attitude, your perspective, and not only just your thinking, but like your actions around it. So this is a very catalyzing energy, and it still is very similar with the full moon that happens on July 21st. So this full moon in Capricorn, 29 degrees on July 21st at 3:21 a.m. Pacific. This is a full moon in Capricorn that is conjunct to Pluto. Notate 29 degrees is just such an important theme for this year. So 29, which I talked about in my Neptune in Pisces podcast a few weeks ago, just really recognizing that there is closure happening, but also culmination. So, Neptune in Pisces is the culmination of Christian extremism, or even just religious extremism, political extremism, the bubble of our technology, and like really recognizing like what we have created at this point. Also just like being able to hold the status of the world in these ways where it's like, whoa, how like is our understanding of the world helping us? That's all 29 degrees Pisces. And then the new moon of this full moon at 29 Capricorn, that's where Pluto has been traversing for over a year. That is where Saturn was in 2020 at the start of the pandemic, and also when the vaccine was released, and also very close to the position where the insurrection happened in the beginning of 2021. That's why I said, you guys, the Dongles of 2020 and the Dingles of 2025, because this particular full moon is braiding all these periods together, and we're going to see that even further as Mars goes retrograde over 29 degrees Capricorn at the end of the year, and Pluto will also be there as well later on at the end of the year. My friends, we are just looking at the echoes of the future and also the weavings of the past. So, do I have a prediction for this period of time? Not necessarily. I think that one of the things that astrology helps us recognize is when our consciousness is available to see something. And for this full moon to be sextile to Neptune, exactly at 29 Pisces, for it to be trine to Uranus and Mars, it's almost as if like you cannot unsee what you're seeing. And it's just that thing that I was saying about this Mars-Uranus conjunction, like, bitch, are you still looking at the same thing and knowing that it's wrong and still making the same damn decisions? Because it's like, for how long? And that is one of the primary issues with Taurus, is like literally having the same result with the same action and also complaining all the damn time about it. It's your choice. It's our choice as a society, because as I didn't get to that I'm saying now, 29 degrees Capricorn is the recognition of our role that we've had to play in the Industrial Revolution reaching its height. Our role in what it's like when we have been exploited and we continue to exploit others in that process of finding ease and comfort in a colonial capitalist world. And so that's why it's like, it's hard to feel into the next steps, because we're actually reaching like culmination. And that's the whole energy of this year. I'll refer back to the 2024 forecast that I did with my friend Tiara, who's an amazing numerologist. And so that's kind of my message. It's a little bit more contemplative and just like, it's a zoomed out perspective, because I think that that's really what happens when Pluto and Neptune are contacting each other. you know, 29 degrees Capricorn and Pluto is there, and then, 29 degrees Pisces with Neptune. It's like that type of contact allows us to see things and we're like, oh, I understand. I understand. It's more so an internal revelatory sensation. And then we can create action from there. And that's the trine to Mars and Uranus is like, well, it's time. So there's a catalyzing factor to it. I think that, like there's the way that Mars Uranus interacts where sure, sometimes we do operate out of like a super intense trauma response where we like get up and our first initial reaction is either to like fight or like run away, right? But I think that's shock, right? And like Mars Uranus is shock. So sometimes it can be that like sometimes we have to let the shock kind of transpire so that we can really start to, make decisions. But, shock comes as a way that we know that it is so disruptive to what we knew previously. And so this energetic of Mars and Uranus being continually reactivated over and over through the week, and then that full moon utterly kind of still having a lot to do with it as well. It's just one of those things where I think that like getting grounded enough where we can start to recognize like it's time to make different decisions is definitely, what the energetics of this week is offering. So my friends, I think that's all I got. Have a beautiful week. Once again, my mentorship program is starting up next week. So if you are edging towards it, it's your final call. It is such an amazing program, and I really am always just shooting out the laser beam to the people who are on that level where they know that they take their healing really seriously, and there's just an internal level of wanting to be super mature in that process. And I really mean these words, so I'm just like shooting out that laser. And yeah, if you're interested in herbals, I've been getting more and more passionate about the herbal products that I've been making. They just keep coming. They just keep getting channeled through me. So if you're interested in super effective formulas that are going to support you on a particular, issue, they also always have a spiritual function. So my immune system formula also protects you spiritually. It's so good. My super seed formula that is a multivitamin also is so deeply nourishing for the yin part of you. So those deep reserves of energy. I've been using it and it's like my energy levels have been up, and just the way that like I have just felt so much stronger using that multivitamin, and it's all food products. So it's like, they're kind of obscure seeds that you might not find always like in the grocery store, like nettle seed, pine pollen extract, and moringa seed. The thing about using seeds is that they really work on that Jing level, so that deeper level of our energy reserves. So they build you. It's not just like, moringa is amazing and nettle is amazing, but when you use this seed, you're actually taking in like the utmost life force. So imagine what that's like when you're taking that as a multivitamin. Libido goes up the roof, energy levels go up, life force goes up. Anyway, I've been really, really passionate about all of my crafts in this past year. I think what it is that I'm just starting to show myself more and being like more blatant and more clear about, these are the things that I've been working on for a decade plus. And so, the herbals, they're just really a gift to my community, because I really, really think that in a world that's changing, we also only have the tool of remaining as clear as possible. We only have the tool of knowing how to care for ourselves so that we can be greater vessels to respond either to our communities, to the things that are so immediately apparent to us, and also just to have like better clarity, right? Like in that episode with Eileen Nauman, where we were talking about like the medicine of these times is to be grounded, because you actually will make decisions that are not for your actual benefit, that could actually be endangering to your livelihood if you're not grounded. And part of the being grounded is like being embodied, right? And so part of that embodiment is really that nutritional level. And so, like that's a big part of my work, is that not only sharing how to think about something, but like the embodiment of the herbal medicine it's something that has really supported me. The plants are information that your body is so available to receiving that information. It's a non-verbal form of communication, but everything is getting aligned so that it allows you to kind of obviously operate in a better way, but it also increases your consciousness, right? When we, for me, living in a city and also spending so much time in New York, herbal medicine has been my way of being connected to the earth. And so, as we're in a period of time where the earth is like really in pain, and because of the changes of weather, it's like it's going to make us less and less grounded, because of the fact that we are going to have less and less nutrients, less and less connection to the earth, or like the earth is speaking through us like, hey, I'm in pain, but we still have to care for our bodies. Anyway, I'm getting on a tangent, but I hope you'll have a good week, and bless.